It's the most frustrated I've ever seen Jaylen Brown, and I'll tell you why it's okay for you to be frustrated with this loss right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Beantown, be ever ready. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis. We kept the madness every game, every practice. Prime time, Depp D. White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Your team is the Boston Celtics, and I talk about them every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts when they play on weekends, a Friday or a Saturday night. So make sure you subscribe. The show is available everywhere. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's the number one Celtics podcast in the world on the number one sports podcasting network in the world. So thank you, everydayers, people who are with me all of these days, for making the show what it is. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. I'm a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. I've been doing a version of this job for about 20 years now. I've been doing this podcast for 10, and I've written a couple of books about the team. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday between 6 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Ooh, mystery. All right, Celtics lose to the Portland Trailblazers, which, shout out to Brian Scalabrine. He called it on the broadcast where he's like, they got in late. It's still a tough turnaround. He didn't like the setup. It's something that a former NBA player, just going through that flight and going through everything, he kind of called it that this was going to be a less than pretty game. And he was right on the money. Later on, we'll get into Jaylen Brown catching Larry Bird in terms of 30-point games. Interesting second straight DNP for Josh Minott. I'll get into him, Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez. That stuff's coming up later too. Donovan Clingan just killing the Celtics on the offensive rebounds. All of that stuff. We're going to start at the top, where this was a very frustrating loss, actually. I know how frustrating a loss it is when my wife texts me from upstairs because she's watching the game. I'm down here watching the game, making my notes and working. And she's upstairs watching the game at the end saying, man, they had so many chances to win that. So she was frustrated. Jaylen Brown, more frustrated than I've ever seen him. And it bugged me a little bit because I've never seen him that demonstrative towards another player. I've never seen him do what he did to Derrick White. And it's kind of confusing because, okay, it's a couple minutes to go. I forget exactly how much. This is the one with maybe a couple minutes to go. Derrick White sets a screen and hangs in the screen for too long, apparently. They double Jaylen. He kind of falls backwards. He turns the ball over. He ends up fouling somebody. And at the end of the play, he looks at Derrick White and he waves his arm, big demonstrative, waves his arm, really pissed off. And then I tweeted it out on the Portland broadcast. The camera flips right at that time, and you see Derrick coming down with shrugging, what do you want? And Scal said that you could tell what Jaylen wanted was, when you set the screen, just set it and go. Just clear out. All I want is the switch. You don't have to hang out. I want to isolate the switch. They're doubling. Give me the opportunity to kind of make my move and not have them double me. So, which is a fine thing to say and a fine thing to be go to Derrick after the play, walk over to him and be like, this is, you need to get out of there because this is what I want to do. Very simple thing. For him to do the big wave, I mean, that was wow. Jaylen is very clearly frustrated. He was pissed off. I feel like he was, he had that big second quarter, and Tamani Kamara was guarding him, and they were talking a lot of smack between the two of them. I feel like he kind of got caught up in that. I feel like he had 27 points at halftime. Felt like this was going to be like, I'm doing this myself type of game because nothing else was really working for the Celtics. Nothing big enough where you got a ton of support for Jaylen. You'd think that a game in Portland, you'd get a typical performance from Payton Pritchard, but he was kind of like a net. He's a +2. But that's Pritchard 3 of 10, 3 of 8 from 3, never quite got going. 9 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. That's nice, but like the 5 and 5, but you expected he was going to score like 20 in this game. Derrick White, 5 of 16 shooting, 2 of 10 from 3. Pritchard was 3 of 8 from 3, so it's 5 of 18. That's not good enough. 12 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for him. Also 5 steals for Derrick, which was really nice. But you didn't get the typical support. You didn't get the performances you thought from certain guys. So it felt like Jaylen's going to have to go do it himself. That level of frustration that he couldn't kind of like live up to his trash talk earlier, it felt like that kind of, I think, boiled over. So obviously you never want to see two teammates kind of get into it like that. After the game, Derrick was like, nope, it's all my fault. He took it, owned it, whatever. I didn't see what Jaylen said. I saw some quotes hanging around. I'm not in Portland on this trip, so kind of relying on the stuff that I see. And Jaylen clearly was still, upset, pissed off when he was, talking post game. You could tell in the quotes. I mean, because he flat out said I was pissed off. But that level of frustration is kind of like new. And for you, for me, for Celtics fans that were watching, getting frustrated, like my wife was getting frustrated, normally, I think earlier this season, a loss like this, I'd be like, you know what? Learning experience, not a big deal. But the Celtics have raised the bar. They've raised the expectations. They kind of made us feel like, no, they win a lot of these games like this. Something comes up where you win these tight games, or you figure something out, or somebody in the team has a moment. Is it Jaylen? Is it Derrick? Is it Payton? It's been Hugo sometimes. It's been Jordan sometimes. Sam Hauser. One of these guys, Anthony Simons, who was okay, but didn't do much. One of these guys you would expect to kind of step up and kind of bail you out at the end. And it just never happened. They always got close and could never get past that hump. There was a play where this one was about 4 minutes to go. Neemias Queta sits a pick for Jaylen Brown. They double Jaylen, and Nemi just kind of like runs and gets out of the way. You could hear Joe Mazzulla in the background. No! You could hear that. And Nemi kind of looks around, and Jaylen at this point jumps and passes to a spot where Neemias Queta should be. He just didn't recognize it. He didn't recognize in real time that was a short roll situation, and he needed to be in a certain spot. And that would have been a way to break down what the Blazers were doing. That situation with Jaylen and Derrick would have been an opportunity. You get the ball to Derrick in that spot, or you take away their opportunity to double. Maybe Jaylen just cooks. There are a lot of these chances that they had. They had open 3-pointers that they just didn't hit. So, I mean, some of this is absolutely shooting variance. They shot 18. The Blazers were 18 of 51. The Celtics were 13 of 44. So you lose a game by 6 where you get outscored by 15 at the 3-point line. That's, you could sit there and just be like, that's it. But the Celtics kind of this messy finish, these these frustrating little mistakes. They kept getting close, and then they were like that last thing they needed, a shot, the right read, the being on the same page, the out of bounds play where Jaylen looked like he was curling to the basket. I thought he was curling to the basket. Derrick White thought he was curling to the basket, but he ended up continuing like he was going to go to the corner. And Derrick threw a pass that was going towards the basket. And he was like, frustrated because everything called for that play. That just looked like the play to make. So I feel like that was where Jaylen was wrong. There's just one thing after another of, okay, this guy's not on the same page as this guy. This guy's not reading the play the same way this guy is. You get to 80% of the execution, and that final 20% is just not enough to win this game. The Blazers did a good job. They adjusted. They blitzed Jaylen. They got the ball out of his hands. Donovan Clingan went in there and was destroying them on the boards. We'll get to that. We'll get to the rest of the individual performances when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel is giving fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app will give you something new, boosts, you got bonuses, surprises. You can check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts, you get the extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. Make sure you're using the tools that are available when you open up that app as well. Set your limit, set your budget. Only bet what you can afford to lose, just in case. Set that limit, and they will help you gamble responsibly. NBA Happy Hour is only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Locked On Celtics is the number one Celtics podcast on the number one sports podcast network around. And now you can become an everydayer by going to everydayer club member by going to lockedonceltics.supercast.com. For $5 a month, you get ad-free audio. You get exclusive access to our Discord server. You get merch drops. You get all of that stuff. $5 a month, $50 for the year. LockedOnCeltics.supercast.com. So check that out. Think it'll be fun. So Clingan comes in. He said we knew before the game. We knew coming in that they're not a great defensive rebounding team. Shocker, right? So Clingan comes in. This game starts out like the Celtics are going to cruise. The first couple minutes, it's like, oh, man, this is going to be so easy. And then Clingan comes in, and it's just offensive rebound, second chance. And like the Celtics did a good job on their own by doing they had 12 offensive rebounds, but they gave up 15. Again, the Celtics do something right, but then something else is wrong that doesn't get them the rest of the way where they need to be. Second chance points, the Celtics had 21, but they gave up 19. And you're like, you get 21 second chance points. You gotta find a way to limit the other team. You gotta win that margin by a fair amount. So Clingan comes in, they get a bunch of second chances. That keeps the Blazers alive. Turnovers. The Blazers, very turnover prone. I wrote before the game on Boston Sports Journal, Denny Avdia can be turnover prone. He turned it over 5 times. They turned it over 21. The Celtics only got 20 points out of that. When the team turns it over 21 times, you got to get into like the mid 20s. You got to get 5 more points, 6 more points. Like 21 turnovers have to turn into more baskets than that. You just have too many opportunities there. The Celtics have to cash in on those opportunities. But the Celtics turned it over 19 times, and they allowed 18 points off of those turnovers. So instead of capitalizing, you say, okay, you still get 20 points off of turnovers. You give up 18. So it's like, okay, you're a +2 there. You're only a +2 on the second chance points. Okay, +4, that's fine. But you're -15 from the 3-point shooting. So I know Clingan is like third in the league as far as offensive rebounds per game. He's second in the league by 2 in total offensive rebounds to Rudy Gobert. He's a little bit of a machine, but it doesn't have to be what do you have? 7 offensive rebounds. It doesn't have to be 7 offensive rebounds. Could be 4. There's got to be a way to not lose him so much that you 7, like you can't grab like 2, 3 more. Again, you lost by 6. So limit one of their second chances. Protect the ball a couple of times, right? Joe Mazzulla loves to talk about these games always come down to 5 or 6 plays. And it's a 6-point loss. The, 2 offensive rebounds, 2 turnovers, and 1 made 3-pointer from Boston from Sam Hauser, who missed a bunch of open ones and was 1 of 5 from 3. So you knock off, 2 turnovers, and they score 14 points. You get 1 more 3-pointer. Now that's a 7-point swing. Now you get, you add these all up, and you could have like 10, 11, 12 points on these plays. You're like, oh, 6-point loss could have been a 6-point win. You hit a couple of shots. You shoot a normal percentage from 3. Now it's a 16-point win. So it's right there. So because the Celtics have set their expectations that you expect them to beat teams like Portland, even though Portland's tough, Denny Avdija is tough, Shaedon Sharpe is tough. These guys can do some damage. Caleb Love goes 4 of 10 from 3. Joe, after the game, says, there are a couple in transition. If you just get out to that, you prevent a couple of those. All of these little things, right? 5 possessions, 6 possessions, 7 possessions. You start rearranging the points, and you have a Celtics blowout on your hands, right? They could have very easily, in this game, the way it was going, turned around and blown the Blazers out if they'd done a few things differently. But because they couldn't make those plays, the Blazers hung around, and next thing you know, you're executing poorly down the stretch. You're turning the ball over 4 times in the last minute and 8 seconds. The Celtics only took 1 shot. They took 1 shot in the last minute 45. You got to get up more than 1 shot in a minute and 45 seconds. You have plenty of time to get 2, 3 shots, 4 shots up in that stretch. To only put up 1 because of all the turnovers. So that poor shooting and all of that stuff, it all adds up. So yeah, I think you can infer from my tone that I'm calling this a frustrating loss. Does it matter much? No, because if the Celtics learn from this and talk through whatever they need to talk through and turn around and go to Utah and win and, close out the trip with 3 wins, Utah, Sacramento, the Clippers, maybe, but I don't know. The Clippers are going to be tough because I just like Kawhi scored 50, 55. Kawhi's back. He's scoring 50 something. It's like vintage Kawhi all of a sudden. But and look, let me just, as I have another side note, if you play the Clippers and Kawhi has one of those games and you lose, that's okay. But that's what makes this game so frustrating. These winnable games for the Celtics, who again do not have a strong margin for error, and we saw that in this game. You can't have all of these things happen and still expect the Celtics to win. Can't turn the ball over, can't shoot like crap, can't let Donovan Clingan kill you on the offensive rebounds. You can't have Sam Hauser, like all of these things, the poor shooting, all of that. You can't have all of them. You can have a couple of them maybe, but the margin for error is so thin, you can't have all of that and expect to win. But if you do clean some of that up and you win this game, that allows for the Clippers are starting to figure things out, or Kawhi is having a healthy stretch, and he might miss 50 games this season, but you caught him on the 2-week stretch where he's MVP Kawhi and he beats you himself. Okay. If that happens, that happens, right? If you lose to another team, you play well and you lose. All right, fine. You go, you watch film, you figure out what do you do? Like, how do you fix what you need to fix, and you move on, right? You play well and you lose, you can deal with that because sometimes the other team is just better. When you play like crap and you lose, or you make stupid mistakes and you lose, where two guys who've won a championship together are suddenly not on the same page and kind of like sniping at one another on the court. When you lose like that, now you're like, man, this is not fun. This is actually frustrating. I'm actually like a little upset by this because of the way it went. And these guys have proven that they're better than this. So, it's a compliment. It is a compliment where, yeah, you guys have set the expectation, right? Jaylen Brown, Derrick, all these guys, you've set the expectation that you win games. They're 19-12 now. 19-12. They're in a good spot. They're on a 50-something win pace. I expect better. I just expect better. But when I come back, part of why they couldn't get to better is because of these wings. This is an interesting thing. And then the ultimate wing in Celtics history, Larry Bird, has company. Jaylen Brown. We'll talk about that when we come back. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. It's on the Locked On NBA feed. 2 podcasts on that feed. Locked On NBA drops in the afternoons, covers all the big stories in the league. Game Night covers every game, every night, 7 nights a week. I'm actually going to do the Tuesday show. The Tuesday show. Because I normally do Wednesdays with Jake. I'm doing the Tuesday show because the Celtics play on Tuesday night, so I can't do the Wednesday show. Either way, check me out on Locked On NBA Game Night. Would love to have you there as we cover the entire league. Wherever you found this podcast, that's where you find that podcast. So one of the reasons why the Celtics margin for error is, thin is just because of the team makeup. And this kind of revolving wing rotation is an interesting kind of side note to how this game is going, how this recent stretch of games has gone. Josh Minott, where you been? All of a sudden, he's 2 DNPs, did not play, coach's decision. Josh Minott? We just did a show a month and a half ago about, is Josh Minott going to end up being too expensive to keep? Now he's getting DNPs. What? Jordan Walsh gets into foul trouble early. Again, fouls too much. Plays less than 10 minutes. Hugo Gonzalez comes in. He gets 30 minutes. And he's great. Like, he's been really good, but he's also still 19. He's still learning the NBA. I am so high on Gonzalez, but also this is a guy who didn't play much in the last game. This is or two games ago. He's still a 19-year-old rookie learning the NBA. That's not always like his maturity and all of that stuff, but like that's always going to be a risk. You're going to have moments where he makes a bad decision because he's, a mature 19-year-old is still a 19-year-old. So I don't know what's going on with Josh. It was funny because Jaylen was talking about the Celtics University concept. Like, this season is Celtics University, and they're they're learning a lot of stuff and all that. There's been stuff written about it. Quotes are out there that Jaylen and Joe see it as Celtics University, and they're trying to figure out how to learn certain things in certain amounts of time and so on and so forth. And so Jaylen was saying, yeah, sometimes you got to, talk to people and kind of wake them up. Like, and he said, wake up, Josh, like joking. But I was like, why did you say Josh? Because Josh his role seems to be diminishing here. So kind of interesting that you said Josh to me. I don't know what's going on with Minott, but I know that the shot seems to have gone away a little bit. The magic, the defense, all of that stuff seems to have gone away a little bit. Not sure why. The Jordan Walsh thing is coming back down to earth a little bit. And so now it's Hugo's turn. But in these stretches where the Celtics have won, it's been a lot of Jordan making plays, getting out there and making plays. But like I said, remember when I said on the podcast that I think this was a mailbag from 2-3 weeks ago where I said Jordan needs to work with Sam Cassell and Derrick White and Payton Pritchard so we can learn some point guard skills when he gets a steal and is out leading the break. How do you run a 3-on-1, a 3-on-2? What tricks are there? Learn that stuff. And that one of his 3 fouls, an offensive foul, it was a 3-on-1, I believe. And instead of giving it up to Jaylen Brown, he's driving down the lane, right? Jaylen is on his right side, and the spacing is not great. Derrick is further up. So they're running a 3-on-1, and it's in a very thin area of the floor. So a point guard in that moment would be like, okay, I have to bring the defender out with me, right? I have to go from that slot area further out to the wing so I can now this guy has to make a decision. At that point, he could guard 3 guys at once because even if the pass was made to Jaylen, the defender just had to just do this, slide over a little bit, and he would get to, it wouldn't take a lot of effort. So a point guard, a guy who learned point guard skills would say, I have to create the space by moving over. And if you're not coming with me, then now I know I've got an opening for myself and I can attack. And then maybe there's a dump off there, but that would also inform the other guy to kind of hang back because now I have a one-on-one opportunity. And so I might need a dump off, or there's an offensive rebound opportunity. And these point guards are doing everything I just said in like half a second. But instead of giving it to Jaylen Brown and then him going out or him doing that, he just keeps it and he tries to make a move and it's an offensive foul. So that kind of stuff is happening. And so Jordan is not getting the same playing time. He's not getting the same opportunity, and he's not making the most of those opportunities. So the players, the types of performances the Celtics are getting aren't quite the magical type of performances that they've been getting. So it's an interesting kind of, is this a turning point? Is this more isolated? It's now 31 games and we're inching very close to the halfway point of the season. We're getting to now first, this is the longest road trip of the season. This is the first extended, you're flying across the country, lots of time zone changes. You're playing at a time, it doesn't feel like that time. And, it's all screwed up. And now you're going from Portland to Utah. That's not the easiest flight. It's, you get, you get, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by a noise. An altitude change. So there's a lot of things that are happening on this road trip that are happening for the first time. So I'm very curious to see how these guys are going to react and push through. You need Jordan Walsh. You need Josh Minott. You need Hugo Gonzalez. You need them to be, whatever minutes they get, they have to be really good minutes, because the Celtics aren't going to be able to shoot their way out of everything all the time. And if you have a night where Jaylen and Derrick are having brain farts, then who's going to step up and save them? Like that, somebody has to do that. And so these moments here are, I'm very curious to see how they progress. Now, Brown did make some history, and he didn't want to talk about it after the game, but it's his 9th straight 30-point game. He matches Larry Bird for most consecutive 30-point games in Celtics history. It's not just that; it's he's had that's 9 straight. So 11 of his last 12 have been 30-point games. His I have it right here. He had 37 in this game. It's 12 out of 13. His 18th 30-point game of the season. So that's twice what he had last year. Last year he had 9. This year he's at 18. And his most 30-point games in the season was 22. And he did that in the 22-23 season. So we're 31 games in, and he's already got 8. He needs 3 more to match his career best in 30-point games in a season. I would expect for that to happen at some point. And Jaylen is getting very, very close to averaging 30 points a game, like averaging 30 points. He's averaging 29.7, which I don't know where that puts him in the league, actually. Let's take a quick ride over to the leaders and see. 29.7 puts, that would put him 6th. Kind of depends. ESPN did not update their but so Luka's averaging 33.7. And so Jaylen is 4 points behind him. So he's right there. He's one of the top. This isn't updated. So 5, 6, 7 scorers in the league. That's incredible. That's incredible. So he's going to certainly pass his total. He'll probably, who knows what he's going to get to. We're at 30 games, 31 games. He's missed 1, right? And so to already have 18, more than half. So what's he going to have this year? 30-something, 40 games where he has 30 points? That would be incredible. So shout out to Jaylen, who's having an absolute monster season. I don't see how he doesn't make an all-NBA team at this point, like already. And look, the dude got his chance to be the number 1 guy, and he's killing it. He's putting his name next to Larry Bird. The proof is right there, man. Like, no matter what anybody has said, no matter what I have said or anything like that, every time he gets an opportunity, he makes the most of it. Even in a game where he didn't have the best finish, okay, that happens to everybody. I continue to be really impressed by Jaylen Brown and what he's been able to accomplish. So kudos to him. Congrats to him. Whenever you write your name next to Larry Bird in the Celtics history, in the Celtics record book, you're good. Not many people get to do that, especially with something so sustained. And Larry Bird did that during an MVP season. So I don't know if Jaylen's going to get an MVP. But you know what? You start the season out saying, well, he deserves consideration. Now you get to he's got to be in the conversation. I think obviously Jokic is the best player in the league. So he's probably, like, right now I would vote for him as my MVP. But you look at these guys, it's like Luka. Yeah, Luka can get votes. He'll obviously get votes, but the Lakers are a little bit disappointing right now. SGA, sure, but he won it last year. Is he going to win it again? I don't know. You got Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson. I put Jalen above all of those guys as far as MVP goes. Maxey has a case because of how good he's been, and the Sixers have like some, they've made some noise because of him, but the Celtics have made a lot of noise and third in the East because of Jalen. Like, Jalen's been the guy. So I would probably have Jalen third in MVP voting right now, which would be incredible. Who knows how the season goes, but shout out to Jalen for having incredible start to the season. So once again, frustrating loss. A lot of things go wrong, and okay, they're going to learn from it. It's not like I'm not like crying over the loss, but it's still frustrating. It's still frustrating, and it should be frustrating. And I'll repeat myself. It's a compliment to tell the Celtics that a loss like this is frustrating, because that means I expect them to win. So that's on them. You've created this expectation. I'm holding you to that. So let's see if they can figure it out in Utah. Another tough one, man. It's going to be tough. So they're going to have to play hard. They're going to have a lot of the same issues. So we'll see how it goes. But I'll be here. I'll have a post-game pod for that. We got podcasts all week. They play on Friday. Is that right? They play Utah Tuesday. They play Sacramento Thursday. So no, they don't play Friday. They play the Clippers on Saturday. Saturday's a 10:30 game. So I'm actually probably just going to wait and do the podcast on Sunday and just make that the Monday show. And because that's, by the time I go to bed, it's going to be Sunday anyway. So I'll figure it out. You'll have all the podcasts you want, all the podcasts you need. There's plenty. The weekend after, God, they play on Friday and Saturday at home. I'll have podcasts after that for sure. So just tons and tons of podcasts. They're all free. If you want to pay $5 a month for the Everydayer Club, you get ad-free audio. So you can do that. LockedOnCeltics.supercast.com. Check that out. And I would love it if you shared the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.